Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of Baking Geek. In this episode, this is a very special one for me. I'm going to be handing over my recipe that I've been using for 30 something plus years. This is my very trusted mud cake recipe, and trust me, I don't give this one off lightly. I've used this recipe for wedding cakes, for birthday cakes, for Christmas cakes. You can cut it up using it at the bottom of a cheesecake. It is such a versatile recipe. I've worked at a few patisseries, and this is a very closely guarded recipe at those places. Okay, trust me. It took a lot to remember this one when I used to run home and write it down. Okay, anyway. Let's get into it. Okay, now I'm going to flash the recipe up on the screen. Okay, so it involves a sugar syrup. It's one of the only cakes I've ever seen with such a heavy sugar syrup presence. Yeah, so what we're going to be basically doing is making a coffee syrup, and that's going to be the main flavour, and we're going to put some rum in that and some vanilla essence as well, and all these flavours are going to go really well together basically, and it's going to bake off really well. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start out with the sugar syrup first. That should always be your first port of call. Okay, so we're going to put the water and sugar together. I'm going to flash the recipe up on the screen like I said, so there's no need for me to talk through it. Okay, now what sort of coffee should you use? You should always use like a dry granulated coffee, freeze dried. Don't ever use the powdered stuff, that won't work, and don't ever use coffee grinds here. That will definitely not work. So there is a bit of a trick to adding this stuff to your sugar syrup. Wait for your sugar syrup to come to the boil, take it off the heat, add it, and then you can add it back into the heat. But basically, if you were to throw that straight into the sugar syrup, the whole lot would just foam up and go everywhere, all over your stove, and you'd lose half your recipe. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do that. I'm just going to wait for this sugar syrup to come to the boil, and while you're doing that, you can get all your other stuff ready. You can get your cake tin lined. This recipe should do 1 24 centimetre cake tin roughly, and that'll be a pretty big one, be a pretty big sort of cake. Yeah, you can tell how well loved this cake pan is. It's seen lots of work. Okay, you can get your butter weight up, you can even, yeah. Okay, so we're just waiting for that sugar syrup to come to the boil. Okay, hopefully your sugar syrup's come to the boil. And like I said before, we're going to take it off the heat, just watch the heat of the pan, and we're going to add our granulated coffee, freeze-dried coffee, and we'll just keep it on the whisk, just keep it moving like that, a little bit at a time. There you go. And just keep stirring it in, just like that. If you do want to add it back to the heat, you won't run the risk of burning this coffee, that's okay. It will, keep an eye on it, it will come up on your butt. Okay? I think that's enough. That's all. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to put this all together very quick, I'm going to chuck that in the freezer and just really just take the heat out of it. It doesn't need to be cold. It just needs to be warmish when I put it into the rest of the mix, okay? Back in a sec. Okay, while our coffee syrup's cooling down, we're going to get our butter underway. So this actually is quite a lot of butter, but yeah, doesn't matter. Okay, so which one we got? Got the front one here. Right, get your butter underway, and I'll tell you what, this is a great trick if you've got any leftover chocolate from another job. You know, it's great for leftover chocolate. You know, if it's not good for melting down, use it up in a mud cake and you can bake it and get a second life out of it, so to speak. So we're just going to pop our chocolate in the mixer. Just keep an eye on our butter. We don't want to burn it. There we go. I'll come back when the butter's melted. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so our butter's just starting to boil. What we want to do is we want to just bring it to the boil, We don't want to burn it, that's for sure. And dairy is very easy to burn. There it goes, it's starting to bubble. What I'm trying to do is get enough heat into it to basically melt all the chocolate that's in this bowl. So that's going to be the first thing in your bowl, folks. Right. Okay. Kick your mixer over. You don't need to mix this fast. I'm using a whisk attachment for this one. I have done it in big lots in bakeries / patisseries. I have done it with a beater before, so I prefer the whisk. And we're just going to bring the butter and the chocolate together, make a nice amalgamation. Now this recipe is all about the method and how you put it together. You can't just jam everything in a bowl and expect it to come to, because I have seen this mix on several people, several different places. I have seen this mix split. It does bake out all right when it's split. It's not preferential, okay? So this is the foolproof way to get a good result. Okay, I'm just going to whisk around the bottom. Just make sure it's all up off the bottom. You don't want anything hanging about. There we go. And look, there we go. Slip up. All right. There we go. Chocolate everywhere. There you go. Sometimes you do make a mess. Oh. There we go. Alright, so now, like, I'd say the sugar syrup only boiled it probably 4 or 5 minutes ago, but you know what, I'm gonna use a hot syrup. I don't care. Oh, you know what I should do. Hopefully by now you've preheated your oven too. We're gonna bake this for an hour 20 in a fan force 160, in a regular convention oven 180, okay, for an hour 20, just until the cake starts to pull away from the sides a bit, and boom, she's done, okay. So I say that coffee syrup it's still got quite a bit of heat in it, but that's okay. Now for the alcohol in this cake, I've tried this with scotch, I've tried it with bourbon. It's best with rum, people. Yeah, I've tried this recipe many different ways. So we need 60 mils. $60 of rum. There we go. Make sure you get all of it, okay. I'm going to throw a dash of vanilla in here too, because vanilla's just great. It just makes everything taste better. And you can already smell that rum coming off, because it's still quite warm. The rum's obviously still, it's probably evaporating at this point. But that's okay, it's going to evaporate in the cake anyway. And we're going to use half a lemon. That's going to kick along the bicarb soda actually, as well as impart some flavour into it. So this is the method I was talking about. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add about 2/3 of this syrup into the chocolate butter mix, and then we're going to stop. Now it's time to add your flour, corn flour, bicarb, salt mix, okay? We're going to do that nice and slowly, let the mixer take it all up. Hopefully you've sieved everything as well, folks. This is one where you should most definitely sieve your flour. There's some recipes I don't sieve flour, some I do. Just get it all in there. All those flavours are already starting to smell. You can already smell this. This is, yeah, like I said, this is one of my most trusted recipes. If you currently have another mud cake recipe, rip it up and throw it out. This is the only one you're ever going to need. Okay, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a clean down. Just get all that stuff off the sides. That mix is you can already feel the heat coming off this mix, and that's okay. We're sticking a hot cake in the oven, so basically it's you're almost starting the baking process in the mixer here. Okay, almost there. We're going to add the rest of the sugar syrup. Nice and slowly, and that's going to suck it all up. Make sure you get it all out. Don't want to leave anything behind. Now, you can see I'm not mixing fast on this at all. I'm just on first gear. Now, we're getting towards the end of our mix. Now, I've said this before in other videos, like, when you add eggs at the start of a cake mix, that adds volume to the mix. When you add eggs at the end of a cake mix, that adds volume in the oven. Two completely different types. There's a bit of tech there for you folks, so just going to add these eggs. And basically we're just going to mix these eggs through, and then we're done. We're pouring it in a tin and whacking it straight in the oven. I do want those eggs to break down a little, so I am going to give it a little bit of a whirl. Just for a little bit. What I don't want to see is egg albumin hanging off the whisk, so I'd say we're fairly safe. That's gone in fairly well. You can already see the mix is starting to aerate as we speak, and I can smell the coffee coming off that. That's beautiful. And the rum and the vanilla. Now folks, this is one of the only recipes you will ever see with such a heavy sugar syrup presence, and because it's got that sugar syrup in it, it's such a moist cake. It is golden. Okay, so we're going to pour this in our 20, I believe that's a 24 centimetre. Get it all in there. Now folks, if you wanted to, and I do this quite often, is you can actually convert this over to a gluten-free recipe if you want. Just substitute the flour content for gluten-free flour, that's it. It'll still work. Gluten-free, there you go. Suits everyone. My mum's a celiac, so at Christmas time I'll be doing this recipe with regular gluten-free flour. You can pick gluten-free flours. You can pick it up anywhere these days, folks. It's all over the place. Some brands are better than others. Have a try, have a feel, see what you like. Anyway, this is going in the oven now for 1:20, and I'll be back when it comes out. See ya. Okay, folks. So it's been about 1:15 for this one. It's a bit of a smaller one, 24 centimetre. I'm usually doing a 28 centimetre, like a bigger type one. This is a little bit smaller, so it's taken about 1:15. So let's go have a look at it in the oven, eh? Right. Okay, so if you've done everything correctly, just like I've told you to, right, okay, you can see from this cake it's starting to pull away from the sides. That's what you want. That means it's baked, okay? Now, when a cake is like this, that means your temperature's too high. When it's like that, that means your temperature's too low. This one is spot on. It is nice. It's like that. Yeah, that's exactly where we want to be. Now, we're not going to turn this cake out. It needs to set in the tin for at least 12 plus 24 hours. Chuck it in the fridge for a day. Cover it. Let it cool down on the bench, and then once it's cool, chuck it in the fridge with some Glad wrap over the top of it, just to keep that moisture level in, and it should be right. Hopefully 24 hours later you can decorate it, and we'll get back to that one. Yeah, I'm gonna have some fun with this one. Alright folks, so that's it, yeah, for my mud cake recipe. If you have another mud cake recipe, chuck it out. Rip it up into tiny little bits and throw it out. This is the only one you're ever going to need, trust me. It is a stable recipe. Yeah, okay, hit the like button, do what you want, see you later.